Many men struggle emotionally from the fallout of a messy breakup, and very few men have any kind of plan for dealing with this inevitable part of life. In today's video, I'm going to give you a clear action plan to make sure that you don't waste years or drive yourself insane over a bad breakup. Good day, gentlemen. James Marshall here with a very important topic. Now, men tend to be planners. We plan many things. We plan our exercise regimes, we plan our finances and our stock portfolios. We even plan our seductions and our dates and meticulously study and learn about them. But there's one area that men don't put much time into planning or preparing for, and that is how to deal with a breakup. The reality being that the vast majority of the relationships that you have during your time on this planet will end at some point. Maybe one of them will last forever, but most of them will not. And it's understandable that we don't really want to think about that because it's not very romantic or idealistic to be pondering the end of a relationship, especially when you're in the fun bits of it. You want it to last forever and you hope it will, but the reality is that it probably won't. If you're completely unprepared for being a man who is abruptly single, who has gone from relationship to no relationship, then you are likely to spin into some kind of cycle of depression, loneliness, isolation, possibly even bitterness and resentment to women as a group. And this is not going to assist you going forward in your dating life. There is nothing less attractive than a man who is depressed and bitter and has no options. So it is the prerogative of the man when he comes out of a relationship to rapidly as possible, move through the grieving, mourning process into the healing process, and then to get himself back out there in the game to start the whole thing all over again. So today I want to give you a bunch of, let's say, tools or strategies that you can put into play when you reach this point in your life. Because if you don't, you will tend to stay in relationships that should have ended a long time ago, and sometimes people will waste decades, often months and years, being in a relationship that has long since passed its use-by date. And the effect of this is that you're stealing time from your future self who could be going out there dating and getting options and then finding a partner that's much more compatible. So let's blow apart the Disney fantasy of forever after and get down to a cold hard strategy of how are you going to deal with being a single man, how are you going to get through a breakup so that it doesn't cripple you and allows you to grow, heal, evolve, so that next time around, you've got a much better chance of having a functional and healthy relationship. The first thing to do coming out of a breakup is whatever you want, right? So in the very early initial stages of it, as long as it doesn't involve violence or breaking the law or doing anything dumb, then feel free to roll around in the misery for a discrete and specific period of time. So you can actually set yourself, let's say it was a 3-year relationship and it was pretty heavy and you were deeply in love and then you had your heart ripped out and you don't feel good, then I'm not suggesting you should immediately go on dates and be grinning and smiling and saying, I'm over it, I'm fine, when you're probably not. Feel the feels, and this will be an ongoing theme throughout this list, is that you need to allow yourself at some point, and better sooner than later, to feel whatever it is that you need to feel. Men have a tendency to repress emotion, especially negative emotion, and that may work in the short term in the sense that you can kind of numb yourself out, but I am highly recommending that you don't do that, or if you do that, you do it for a very short and specific length of time. Give yourself a week where you're like, for this week, I'm going to indulge in my shittiest behaviors. I'm going to sit on the couch, drinking beer, eating onion rings, watching bad TV. I'm going to complain and whinge. I'm going to say that, well, women are something and I'll never love again. I'm going to cry and scream. I'm going to go and punch inanimate objects. Whatever it is that doesn't require you to break any bones of yourself or anyone else, go for it, right? There's a time and a place for being a mess. So be a mess, but make sure that you know that on Sunday, the mess stops, that you're going to shift into something else. Otherwise, the danger can be that you could roll around in that state for a long period of time. And remember, as you're doing that, you're getting less and less appealing to women. The more drunken, the more loserish, the more depressed, the more bitter and resentful that you allow yourself to become, the less of a prospect you are when you decide to get back into the dating game. So give yourself a week to be a total mess, and then on the following Monday, do something else. The next thing to do is to sort out any physical or logistical ties that you have with your ex. So that means returning each other's shit, That means if you have signed a lease together, removing yourselves from that lease. If it means that you bought things together, then try to, in a civil manner, divide up any assets and separate them. Although what I would tell you guys is that when you have a breakup, more likely than not, she's not going to pay you back that $120 that she borrowed off you a year ago. More likely than not, if she has the puppy, when the relationship ends, she's going to keep the puppy. So to some extent, you're going to have to just let go of any small scale investments or items that she may have a hold of. If you move out of the shared apartment, don't expect to be taking the cutlery with you. You can go to war over this kind of stuff, but it's going to be nasty. And if it's small scale items, then I wouldn't really bother about it. Just keep that in mind when during a relationship you find yourself paying for things or lending money or buying stuff for the house, that very likely if this relationship ends, you won't be seeing those things again. So as quickly as you can, take over all her stuff, get your stuff, separate whatever items and things need to be divided. Understand that if you have a shared friendship group, that people are probably going to choose sides and you may end up losing some friends in this situation. If you became friends with her friends, you can kiss goodbye to all of them, forget that social circle. So there can be social fallout from a relationship breakdown, depending on how ugly the breakup was. Some people are really cool and mature and they separate and they stay within the same friendship circle and they become friends sooner or later and things can be fine, but this can often be the case. So you're going to have to learn to cut your losses and run. Another reason to be really careful about how much you invest in a relationship. Are you going to move in together? What's the price of this if this goes south? Are you going to buy a car together? What are you going to do if you break up? Who's going to get to keep the car? Am I supporting somebody through their studies or lending them money all the time, knowing that if we reach a breakup point, I'll probably never see that again? These are some of the mistakes that maybe you made in this relationship or a previous one that you may want to look at when you're doing your relationship autopsy and then make sure you don't do them again in the future. But as soon as possible, separate your lives so that there are no hooks and loose ends. Next, break contact with your ex. Now, this doesn't necessarily need to be done in a nasty way, but in most cases, both of you need space from each other. If you're still in contact all the time, texting and checking their Instagram and trying to figure out from a photo at a party, who's that guy in the corner? She was with him, wasn't she? And then, getting into all that kind of drama, you don't want to do that. So the best thing to do is to remove yourself or remove them from all of your social media. You don't want to be able to see their Facebook or their Instagram or their Twitter or whatever else. And better to block their numbers. What you want to do is maybe keep one avenue open for communication, which is email. It's relatively impersonal. It's not something that people are checking, 1,000 times a day. So if you need to have some kind of way to be in contact with a person because possibly you want to have a friendship in the future or you want to leave open some line of communication, then just agree that it's only going to be via email. And do discuss this with your ex if you're on speaking terms at all. And you can phrase it simply like this. Listen, I'm going to have a break from social media and I think it's going to be more healthy for me if I'm not looking at your Instagram. So I'm going to block you on it and I'm going to block you on Facebook. And I think it's better if we have X number of time where we don't speak. And what I would say for that is if it's been a heavy relationship, it's been a number of years, then having a break of around 6 months is probably the best thing to do. Now, there will be exceptions. Some people are going to be better at staying in touch and not getting too emotionally entangled or cause each other pain than others. But as a general rule, give it 6 months where you basically have no contact with that person outside of any necessary contact to do with dealing with logistics. The reason for this is that it's called a breakup for a reason. The relationship is now over and you now as a single man need to go out and navigate the single world. If you're still thinking about, pining about, staying in touch with, counseling or being counseled by your ex-girlfriend, then you're still embroiled in the relationship. It's really important that you understand, of course, there may be a period of denial, right? Where we can get back together, this is going to work, and maybe you try that and it falls apart again. Then possibly you go into your self-destructive or sad phase where you're going to roll around in your misery for a little while, give it a week or two maybe. And then you're going to start to move into the healing process. And part of the healing process is not accruing more damage. So cut each other out for a good length of time, because it's important to understand you can't counsel your ex through the breakup and she can't counsel you through the breakup. Now that may be the tendency to want to do that, You're in pain. You miss this person. You love this person. You wish that it could have ended, or you wish that it could have turned out differently. And so, who's the person that you want acknowledgement from, or pity from, or to be understood by? It's the person that is actually causing the pain, and vice versa. So it's not a good idea if your ex-girlfriend calls you crying and wants to talk about how hard it is to go through the breakup. I mean, don't be cruel about it necessarily, but what can you do because you're the cause of the pain? So in that situation, you need to tell her, and you need to take that on board yourself, that yes, you do probably need help, or she needs help. You need to be able to vent and to express and to be counseled and to be heard and to, have your feelings validated, but it can't be with each other. That's not going to work. So you can tell the ex-girlfriend, listen, I'm not the person that can help you through this because we're causing each other this pain. I think it's really important that you have someone close to you speak to X, Sarah, your friend, or to your parents or whoever it is, and try and get support from them. And I'm going to do the same because otherwise we're just going to keep torturing each other. And you need to take that on board as well. Now, a lot of men problematically rely on their sexual partner, the woman in their life, for almost all their emotional needs. A lot of the times, men are not that sophisticated when it comes to being able to express emotion. There are lots of different friendship groups with men where they don't talk about this stuff. Some do. Some groups of bros are really open and raw and honest and can speak in the language of feelings, can listen to and can probe and draw things out when somebody's having a hard time and be there for them. And a lot of the time, they're not. They're really shit at it. They're like, yeah, how you going? Oh, not great. Oh, yeah, have a beer. All right? Or like, yeah, I'm feeling sad about my ex. Yeah, fuck women, eh? It's always some like loutish Australian, isn't it? There's versions of that in every culture and subculture. But you may have been through that situation where you've been deeply hurt and you don't have anyone to reach out to and express to. So this is part of the safety plan, or the plan going forward in your life, is that you should have both female and male close friends, at least a couple of them, people that you can trust to be able to be raw and vulnerable with, to be able to express things, and hopefully they're skilled enough that they can help draw things out. Because if you're a man that's not that good at expressing his feelings, if someone asks you, hey, how are you? You might just say, fine. And all you needed was someone to just add an extra follow-up question saying, you don't seem fine. Like, you've just broken up with Dolores recently. Do you want to talk about it? And then the guy goes, yeah, she broke my heart. Why did she leave me? And then they let it out, right? So sometimes a man is one or two questions away from actually expressing himself, but a lot of people just don't bother or don't know how to do that. So take that lesson as well to be a good friend to your friends. When you ask them how they're doing, they say fine with a 1,000-yard stare. They're not fine. So ask them a couple of follow-up questions and you'll possibly save their life, or at least make them feel much better. So that's the takeaway there. Cut all contact for about 6 months. Only have email contact if you need to. Reach out to other support structures to get your needs met. That may mean that you need to get a therapist, or that may mean that you need to go to some kind of men's group, or reach out and find different men or women that you can learn to trust and create proper friendships with, because if the ones that you currently have are not serving you in that respect, then you need to find more mature people to have in your life. The next important thing to do coming out of not great breakup is to do an autopsy on the relationship itself. Now, you probably don't want to do that in the first week or two when you're feeling volatile or, let's say, not rational. But once the emotions have settled down a little bit, it's important to sit down and look at this dispassionately and objectively and pull it apart. Because the relationship is kind of like a third entity. We have the girl, we have the boy, and then we have what they create together, which is this shared life experience, throwing in all of the good parts of ourselves and all of the shitty parts of ourselves, and we construct this kind of mutated monster of the combination of the two of us. Now, if I don't look objectively at what happened in a relationship, take ownership for the things that I could have improved, also to be clear on what it was that she may have done or not done that was her fault in the relationship. If we're not aware of this kind of thing, then we're pretty much doomed to repeat more or less the same relationship over and over again, just with different faced people. You may resonate when you hear those words coming from my mouth. I know for myself that I certainly had several relationships in a row where the same kind of dynamic played out because I was repeating the same habits and I was screening for, either consciously or subconsciously, the type of partner that was going to link in with my immature aspects and the parts of my pathologies which were going to lead to a bad relationship. And she was bringing her aspects in as well, and we created a mess. When you take a step back and look at the relationship, you will be able to start to see, what part did I play in this breakdown? Now, is there a case where there's 100% victim and 100% perpetrator? Sure, those things can happen. There can be really abusive relationships. There can be, relationships with someone who has extreme personality disorders or is just a bit of a nasty cunt who takes advantage of you, or vice versa. But for the most part, what's happening is that we train people to treat us the way that they treat us. We give them indications of what we're willing to put up with and not. And if we look back over our relationship and we see that very early on, I let my boundaries get stepped over multiple times, and I thought, I'll just let it slide. And this ended up leading into a dynamic where I was always a doormat, or where this person didn't show me respect, or where that person ended up cheating on me, or where there was just not much of a polarized spark between us. The masculine and feminine dynamic wasn't clear. And so therefore, she or I lost interest or lost respect, or someone cheated on someone, or ended up in nagging and irritating fights about nothing all the time. And we see the pattern of where did the relationship end up based on the behavioral strategies that we put into play early on. When you take note of these things, then you actually have something to work on. Going through the healing process after a heavy breakup can take months, maybe a year, right? Because being heartbroken, it really sucks. And if you haven't experienced it before in your life, it can feel like the end of the world. If you've experienced it a couple of times, you start to realize this is part of the nature of going into this in the first place. It's part of the price of feeling all the high highs, is that at the end you may feel extreme lows. But if we allow ourselves to actually process our emotions, and what that means is to cry, to feel, to express, to have little outbursts of anger in a controlled way, to go into therapy or do psychedelics or whatever healing modalities that we may choose to explore. If we go through this process, then we will actually come out stronger on the other side. And if we've been objective about it, we'll be able to identify all the areas where it went wrong. Was it the problem that I just chose the wrong partner? This person wasn't ready to commit and I tried to force them into a box. Or this person's values or ethics or belief structures were so different from mine that it was never really going to work, and so on. And when we start to see this, then we can go through a process when we're single of healing and growth and evolution, so that then when we go back out into the sexual market, start dating and looking possibly for another girlfriend, we are a more evolved version of ourselves. We are looking out for certain types of red flags. We're aware of the boundaries that we need to set. We know how to express our needs and also how to compromise and make the other person's needs met as well. Now, I'm not saying that this means you need to go into monk mode for 5 years, right? That you need to go and meditate in a cave for multiple years until you are ready, until you're perfect, until you don't have any baggage, till you're 100% over this woman before you go and engage with the opposite sex. No, quite to the contrary. I personally think that it's important that you get out and start dating soon. It doesn't need to be the same week, and there is a situation where we could use lots of meaningless sex and one-night stands and lots of dating as a distraction from the pain, right? And that's certainly one strategy that some guys may use, where they break up and they just go on a one-night stand binge of cocaine and hookers and loose Jezebels, trying to fill that hole that the previous relationship had created, and they may end up just creating more and more mess in their lives. But there is a healthy middle ground. Spend 2 or 3 years in isolation, your sexual market value is dropping, your social skills are dropping, your social world is contracting. This is not a good place for a single man to be. It is my advice that after your initial mourning period of whatever that is, 2-3 weeks maybe, if it was a big relationship, start getting on dates. Now, a common mistake guys will make is they go on a few dates after a breakup and they're disappointed because it doesn't feel the same as when they were with their ex. Of course it doesn't. You don't have the same level of emotional investment, shared life experiences, cute little languages that you speak together, all of the things that you know intimately about somebody and they know about you that comes from a longer term relationship. Of course, Cindy, who you just went on a date with and you've just met, is not going to match up to the idealized rose-tinted glassed version of the way that you emotionally remember your previous relationship. She's just a girl, and that's fine. What you need to be doing is not trying to find an immediate replacement, because the common problem that a lot of serial monogamists have is that they're serial monogamists. They go from inactive single, that means nothing, or getting laid occasionally, or basically scarcity, to this woman likes me, so I'll hook into her. I stay with her for 2.5 years. We break up. Now I'm in the desert of being single and lonely and horny and got no chicks in my life. And then sooner or later I find another girl, possibly one who has very similar character traits as the previous one, and then I hook into her, and the cycle continues 5 times, and then that's the end of your dating life. That sucks. No, what you want to be doing is looking for some fun, chill, sexy girl to spend good fun time with to help you get over it, right? So go and have a bit of fun, get on some dates, get laid, hang out with a girl and accept and relish her for who she is, not trying to force her into a box of being the replacement girlfriend. She's a girl you're going on dates with, someone young and silly and fun and happy and wants to fuck. That's a good combo. And that will guaranteed help you to get over your ex. Because sometimes a relationship has such an impact on you that you can't really get over that person until you're actually really in love with somebody else. Now, again, I'm warning you that I don't think you should be trying to force somebody else into that I love you forever box. It's like, give it some time. In the meantime, you're going to need to date some number of girls before you find the one or the next really good one. So give yourself that time to be actively single, right? Most men rob themselves of that experience throughout their life. They never really get to be actively single. They're just like in scarcity and then in relationships. And there are other ways to operate that can be completely ethical, completely honest, can be really nourishing, give you a whole lot of awesome feminine energy and fun and sex and companionship, elements that are really important within a relationship without necessarily the heavy duty commitment and falling in love and, going all in on a relationship. Easier said than done, I hear you say, James Marshall. Sure, I just broke up with my girlfriend, or she broke up with me, and I feel like shit. And, I put on 10 kilos and I'm sitting at home playing video games, drinking Fanta out of a bucket, and I don't feel very good about myself. What do you mean just go on a bunch of dates with some hot chicks? How do you do that? Well, how you don't do it is by this. Swiping, waiting, hoping, trying to weirdly hit on co-workers or girls that have been your friends for 4 years. None of that is very dignified and it doesn't really work. What does work? Day game. It's always, guys have been watching this channel hoping for a different answer over the years. Each time must be disappointed. They're like, yeah, but what's the thing that I can do where I don't have to risk getting rejected and it's not very difficult and I don't run out of things? How do you just get chicks easy? Doing day game. Essentially, it's pretty easy to be able to go over to somebody and say, hi, you look incredible today. What's your name? That's technically very simple, but often there are a whole lot of underlying issues that tend to halt guys from doing this, even when they want to. Issues with worthiness, worries about being judged or embarrassed, which are legitimate fears. But if you'd like to learn this skill in a very short amount of time, as painlessly and often very enjoyably as possible, then you should come and join me for one of my live workshops coming up in 2025. I've got a couple of spots left for the April workshop in Budapest, and then there'll be a couple more workshops coming over the spring and summer. This is your chance to hit the ground running for 2025, to go out there and learn the fine art and science of rolling up to strangers and getting into sexual relationships with them. I'm the best in the world at what I do. I've been doing this for over 17 years, and I've had countless success stories from men who originally were in this cycle of scarcity or inactive single into monogamy, often with the wrong woman, and then repeating that a number of times, to being able to break out and have actual choice in their dating life. So if you'd like to join me and my world-class team, then all you need to do is click the link in the description, get on a free call with one of my team members. We'll talk to you about your current situation, see if you're the right fit for the workshop, and hopefully I'll see you in Budapest next year to get their shit sorted. And for all those suffering out there in a breakup, I feel you. I've been through it probably more times than you have, and I know it's hard, but it is survivable. And if you follow the action steps that I've given you today, allowing yourself to reach out, to seek help, to mourn, to evolve and grow, then this will be actually a really beautiful part of your life in the broad scheme of things. This is part of the price of having a life of emotional extremes, of getting to experience the real juice out of life. Then yeah, you're going to get heartbroken a number of times, but overall, as long as we do it as cleanly and as quickly as possible, it is absolutely worth it. This is James Marshall signing out. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.